Varian exits the room, leaving Arthur to rest. Arthur is startled when he sees Sylvia's stone jump from the couch to the floor. With an attentive ear, he asks himself if the stone is broken after hearing cracks as it hits the floor. Arthur reaches close to the stone because he is concerned that if the stone is broken, the egg will continue to crack. As Arthur gets closer, he screams with surprise when he realizes that the stone was actually an egg all along. The egg hatches and Arthur realizes it was a dragon egg. He starts talking to the baby dragon and names it Sylvia after its mother's name, Sylvia. Arthur is happy to be a father to the baby dragon and tells it to call him Papa. Arthur is disturbed from his sleep when Tess sneaks into his room and picks up baby Sylvia. Tess thinks Sylvia is cute and asks how Arthur and Sylvia communicate. She believes that if she knew how Arthur and Sylvia communicate, she could learn how to have a relationship with Sylvia as well. Arthur makes fun of her and tells her that if she stopped looking at Sylvia like some kind of predator, then she would be nice to her. Varian is training Tess in combat while Arthur wonders why Sylvia hatched in his presence, when beings like her only hatch in front of their kin. He assures himself that maybe it's because he had activated Sylvia the day before. Arthur breaks his concern to Varian, asking if he will have to hide Sylvia when he goes back because he doesn't want people to find out how powerful Sylvia is. Varian assures Arthur that worrying about hiding Sylvia is not the big deal, but rather strengthening his core and his new dragon will. Tess is excited to hear that Arthur is finally starting his training, which means he can finally take beatings like her. Tess is surprised to hear that Arthur will have to train by fighting with another beast tamer. Varian transforms into his Black Panther beast and challenges Arthur to a fight. Varian in his Shadow Panther beast challenges Arthur to a duel as part of his training. Varian warns Arthur to pay attention as he sneaks behind him. Arthur wonders why Varian warns him about sneaking up on him. Varian sneaks behind Arthur and taps on Arthur's shoulder without being noticed, then grabs Arthur by the back. Arthur surrenders and admits it is too soon for him to catch up to Varian's speed. Varian admits that he has bullied Arthur enough and gives him a sword for his fair training. After days of training with Varian's guidance, Arthur is able to access his first stage of his dragon will and also to conceal the presence of his beast in front of other mages. Tess is worried upon hearing of Arthur's departure. The two have gotten pretty close since Arthur came to this kingdom. Arthur hides Sylvia's mark on him by using his grandma's cloth and admits it fits just as he thought it would. Varian tells Arthur it is time to go because his carriage has arrived. Varian gives Arthur a medallion and tells him it will help him navigate the forest. He makes a joke that Arthur can either find another princess to lead him back, or Tess pulls Varian by his beard. Arthur bids farewell to Tess and hopes she will be a great fighter and stronger when they meet again. Arthur hugs Tess and tells her he will miss her. Tess breaks into tears and says she will miss him too. Arthur goes to the carriage. Arthur meets an uncomfortable welcome from a kid he once bullied. Arthur recognizes Ivysaur, but Ivysaur denies the name that Arthur puts on him and says his name is Ferrith Ivysaur III. Ferrith says that he was defeated back then because he was a naive child and continues to try and challenge Arthur right away. Arthur grabs his hand as a greeting and says it is nice to meet him again, apologizing for bullying him back then. They make fun of each other as they travel. The driver tells them that they have arrived and Arthur hopes his parents are there. Arthur tells Sylvia that they are finally home. As he knocks on the door, Arthur admits that he had nearly died, lost someone very important, killed and trained for his life. But nothing comes close to the feeling of coming home to reunite with his family. Arthur hears a little girl's voice answering, "Coming," and he wonders who it could be. An old woman opens the door and asks how she can help him. Arthur introduces himself as Arthur Lewin, and a little girl from behind the old woman asks, "Who?" Alice shows up, calling the name Eleanor Lewin, and reminding her what she had said about greeting strangers who knock on the door. Before she finishes, she sees Arthur and how the bowl in her hand slips and falls to the ground. She notices it is Arthur. Arthur is surprised and full of mixed emotions as he learns he has a sister now. He greets his mother and they all rush into each other's arms to hug. Arthur's father is spotted from a distance running towards his family and hugs Arthur and the whole family in tears. The family welcomes Arthur and sits with him to talk about his adventures. His mother asks how he is feeling and if he is completely healed from the sickness he once reported about. On the other hand, Ray, Arthur's father, is more concerned to know which stage of mana core Arthur is now. Alice complains it's too soon to ask him about the mana core stages. She calls Eleanor to greet her brother, and Arthur tells Eleanor he is glad to meet her. Arthur tells his family about his adventures and worries that he has kept some secrets from them. Ray tells Arthur that he is now working as an instructor for the Halstea auction house guards. Ray is surprised to hear that Arthur has reached high mana core stages, and Ray curses in front of the family. Alice warns Ray about cursing in front of Eleanor. Ray is a bit ashamed to realize Arthur is in the light red stage while he is orange. Ray is excited and challenges Arthur to a duel in the backyard of their home. Arthur and his father are about to hit the backyard for sparring. A man comes in a quick rush, screaming with shock to Ray, telling him he has heard that his son Arthur is alive. He opens the door to only realize the family is calm and talking. He asks, "What's going on?" Ray introduces the man to Arthur as Vincent and his wife Tabitha. He also introduces Arthur to Vincent and Tabitha. Ray tells Arthur that Vincent is his old-time friend, the owner of the house they are living in, and the man he is working for at the Halstea auction house. Arthur greets them, and Vincent wonders if Arthur and Ray are related because of Arthur's good manners. They all laugh. Tabitha introduces her daughter, Lilia, to Arthur and asks if she can be friends with Arthur since they are the same age. Vincent asks Ray what he meant when he said he was going to spar with his son. Ray tells Vincent that he is going to spar with Arthur. Vincent is surprised and wonders if they are really going to spar. Arthur and Ray are stretching for some sparring. Lilia and Eleanor are playing with Sylvia, while Alice, Tabitha, and Vincent are watching Arthur and Ray as they prepare for sparring. Vincent cannot process the fact that Arthur has reached the light red stage at his age. Arthur tells himself not to travel to Vincent, that he is only light red because he couldn't train his core while assimilating with Sylvia's beast. Ray warns Arthur that he, Ray, is not the same man he was back then. Arthur assures him that he is not the Arthur he used to know either. Arthur and Ray start their fight, and Arthur is doing very well. His father is impressed and admits that Arthur caught him by surprise and off guard. Ray warns Arthur that he is about to get serious and starts making fire. Vincent, Tabitha, and Alice are in awe, wondering what is about to happen. Arthur also outshines his father by telling him he had also learned a certain trick. Arthur and Ray are all warmed up and ready to fight each other. Vincent is surprised to realize that Arthur is a deviant. Ray is excited, while Alice grabs Eleanor closer and Tabitha holds Lilia, her daughter, closer in her arms. Arthur and Ray, his father, start fighting. Ray is burning fire and Arthur is cracking electricity. As they fight, noise is made and everyone around is in awe. Arthur dodges his father and realizes his father's punches are getting sharper, and he's also leveraging his long reach to not let Arthur get too close. Arthur finds a way to get closer to his father and catches his father by the jaw with a fist, but does not punch him yet. Alice, Vincent, and everyone are surprised with their mouths wide open. Ray laughs and compliments Arthur, saying that was a great trick he had learned. Ray embraces Arthur in his arms, congratulating him and showing how proud he is of his son. Arthur smiles. Arthur reminisces about his training with Virion. He speaks to himself, saying lightning was by far his most successful deviant affinity, even though he still had a lot of ways to go. He continues to say that ice was unstable, and he couldn't unlock sound or gravity, but still, he felt good bragging to his parents. Ray asks Arthur lots of questions at once, asking when and how he learned to do what he just did, and if there is anything else he can do. Arthur answers that it was not long ago and says there's nothing else he can do apart from what he did when he was fighting with him. Eleanor runs to Ray, asking him if he is okay, while Alice, on the other hand, is telling Eleanor not to run and be careful. Vincent cannot believe what he has seen and needs a drink to process what his eyes have seen. Tabitha is marveled at what Arthur can do and calls him an extraordinary child. They all make their way to the house while other servants have gone to put out the little fires in the backyard that Ray and Arthur caused when they were fighting. The Halstea family and the Lewin family are seated at the table to dine. Vincent and Ray asks if he's aware of the future of his son. Ray answers that he became aware of his son's future when he awakened at 3. Tabitha is surprised to hear that. Alice tells her that Arthur blew most of their house during the process. Vincent asks Ray if they can enroll Arthur in the Xyrus Academy. Ray thinks Arthur is too young, and the Xyrus Academy is the most prestigious academy on the continent. Tabitha tells Ray that even though her husband is drunk, the point that he's making is very good, and they are willing to cover all expenses for Arthur. Alice complains that her family has already troubled the Halstea family by receiving care from them, and thinks burdening them with Arthur's school expenses is just too much. Alice also worries that the academy officials will not accept Arthur because he is too young. Vincent tells them he does business with the director of the school and can talk to the director. Arthur interrupts the discussion and asks if he can comment on the issue since it will affect his future. Alice and Ray are in Arthur's bedroom, telling him how excited they are to have him back. Arthur asks if he has changed a lot since they last saw him, and Ray tells him that even if he has changed, he's still their son. Arthur kisses his mother's cheek as they leave his room so that he can rest. Ray assures Arthur that whatever Vincent said at the table when they were dining, he means well. Arthur reminisces about what had happened at the table after Vincent proposed they enroll him in the Xyrus Academy. Arthur leaves the table to look for some space after interrupting the discussion about the Xyrus Academy. Arthur finds himself walking around the house, and he is stopped by Lilia, who tells him to follow her to a place that's more comfortable. Arthur learns that Lilia is somehow being pressured into becoming a mage. In his room, Arthur assures his father that he knows that Vincent means well. Sylvia wakes Arthur up by licking his face. Arthur asks Sylvia if she's excited, and Sylvia shows her excitement to Arthur. Arthur remembers Tess and worries if she's coping without him. He sniffs Sylvia and realizes Sylvia needs a bath. Arthur takes Sylvia with him to the bathroom to give her a bath. As he talks to Sylvia, someone knocks on his room's door. Arthur opens the door and sees Eleanor on the doorstep. She tells him that their mother sent her to wake him up. Arthur tells Eleanor to lead the way, and Eleanor grabs Arthur's hand and leads him out of the room. Arthur is at the marketplace with his mother, Tabitha, Lilia, Eleanor, and Sylvia. Arthur's excited and asks a lot of questions. Lilia drags Arthur to a haircut shop, telling him she has been meaning to take him there from the moment she saw him. Arthur asks the ladies if taking a haircut is really necessary. His mom assures him that it is indeed necessary because his hair is atrocious. The barber assures the ladies and Arthur that he will make him shine like the flawless gem he is. Arthur screams inside. Arthur feels ridiculous in the hairstyle, but the ladies assure him he looks perfect. Eleanor teases him, saying he now looks good enough to be Eleanor's brother. Arthur sees 2 men dressed in uniform. Lilia tells him they are students at Xyrus Academy, and that it is a status symbol to wear uniforms. Arthur thinks they look like jerks, and Lilia says a lot of them are. Arthur gets himself into trouble, but is saved by Tabitha, who threatens to revoke the man and his family from participating in the Halstea auction house. The man apologizes and lets Arthur go, and Arthur thanks Tabitha. Tabitha says she was worried about what Arthur could have done to the man, and they all laugh. As they reach home, Vincent welcomes them and tells them that they have been waiting for them. Vincent tells Arthur that there's someone he wants him to meet. The visitor introduces herself as Cynthia Goodsky. The director of Xyrus Academy, Cynthia, tells Arthur that Vincent has told her a lot about him. It is revealed that Xyrus Academy has a great reputation, and everyone who has made an impact in life was connected to Xyrus Academy. There is a total silence in the house as everyone is staring. Arthur and Cynthia stare for a moment. Cynthia breaks the silence and offers her hand to Arthur, as she says, "It's nice to finally meet you, Arthur." Arthur is confused whether he is supposed to kiss Cynthia's hand or give his hand as well to greet. As he tries to reach for Cynthia's hand, Alice bends Arthur's head to bow while apologizing to Cynthia for Arthur's rudeness, and says it is also because Arthur has just arrived and is not aware of the customs there. Cynthia tells Alice it is all right, and she apologizes for showing up at a late hour. Cynthia tells Alice that it is not often that she visits people, but because Vincent persuaded her and assured her that Arthur is a potential child, she couldn't refuse the offer, so she has come to see for herself. They arrive at the courtyard where Arthur is expected to show Cynthia his abilities to see if he can be enrolled at Xyrus Academy. Vincent is happy to bring Arthur to the courtyard because that means Arthur will not ruin his courtyard like he did with the backyard when he was sparring with his father. Cynthia asks Arthur if he's going to arm himself with a sword or not. Arthur tells Cynthia that since she hasn't yet armed herself with her hand, which was at this time on her waist, he won't arm himself to make it a fair fight. Cynthia smiles and tells Arthur they can begin. Arthur reminds himself of the things Virion taught him when he was training him. He also remembers that when he was training with Virion, the explosive power of fire and the adaptive riposte of water were the first KI arts from his world manifested as actual elements. And the earth and wind style martial art techniques from his previous life culminate as well. As he keeps meditating, the ground of the courtyard starts cracking and everyone is surprised. Arthur and Cynthia are at the courtyard ready to fight. As they fight, Arthur realizes Cynthia can make a spell on top of another even before he strikes. The fight is at the climax, and the spectators cannot even see clearly. Cynthia admits that Arthur is very good, and he has passed the test with flying colors, but warns Arthur that he is overconfident when facing his opponents head-on. Cynthia offers to train Arthur by herself. Ray asks Arthur when he learned to use earth and wind magic as well. Cynthia asks what Ray means by saying as well. Vincent tells Cynthia that yesterday Arthur used fire magic and burned down his backyard. Cynthia asks how Arthur is capable of controlling 3 elements and 1 to his deviant level. Arthur reveals that it is actually 4 elements he is capable of controlling. Cynthia is shocked to hear that. Eleanor asks her mother if Arthur is very strong. Cynthia answers that he is actually very strong and might perhaps be the strongest in the future. Ray asks the strongest in his mind after everyone has settled. Arthur apologizes to his parents for not telling them earlier. His mother tells him he's forgiven, but there should be no more secrets. Cynthia creates a bubble that covers Arthur and her. She tells Arthur to speak his mind honestly. Arthur tells Cynthia that he showed her his abilities so she can do 2 things for him. He tells Cynthia to watch over and protect his family until he's strong enough to do that himself, and not only will he attend the academy, he will also consider Cynthia to be his benefactor. Cynthia laughs and asks how she can make such a one-sided deal with a mere child, when the Queen and King of Sapin can't even dare to ask. Arthur tells her that because he knows the potential of this mere child and trusts that Cynthia also knows, unlike the Queen and King of Sapin, Arthur tells Cynthia that the deal will have to wait until he gets to the academy because in the meantime he wants to become an adventurer. Arthur, Ray, and Alice are inside the house arguing about Arthur's decision to leave for 3 years to be an adventurer. Tabitha and Lilia can hear everything being discussed inside the room. Vincent and Cynthia talk to each other as they hear some noise in the part of the house between the Leywins. Alice argues that Arthur should be allowed to explore his adventures, but she complains that Arthur has just arrived and there is no way she is letting him go for another 3 years. Ray seems to be okay with Arthur's decision. He tells Alice to come down and hear out their son. This upsets Alice, and she shouts at Ray, saying, "How can he say that after all they have been through?" Arthur comforts his mother by holding her hand and tells her that he wasn't planning on leaving so soon. He tells her that he was planning to spend a few months to be with everyone. Arthur tells his mother that since he has spent 3 years in the Elf Kingdom, he missed so much of Sapin and the rest of Daikareth. He continues to say that he wants to experience the excitement his father and mother had experienced when they were adventurers. Ray agrees with Alice that Arthur should stay because it is dangerous. Arthur suggests that he have someone to guard or supervise him, and Ray agrees that it is a good idea, but Alice is still upset about it. Eleanor asks Arthur if he is leaving. Arthur denies it and assures her that he is still around. Alice still disagrees to give her consent on the issue. She asks why Arthur wants to be an adventurer and why he doesn't go to school first and then become an adventurer. Arthur tells her he doesn't want to go to school at that age because he is afraid he won't make friends because he is too young. At the table, the families gather to talk about Arthur's next move. They agree to find him a guard to protect him as he goes to be an adventurer, and they also introduce other conditions. Arthur is excited to hear that they will give him one of the twin horns as his guard. Vincent is in his office writing something on paper. He hears a knock on his office door, and upon opening, he sees Arthur standing in the door. Vincent tells him that he has just missed his father because he was there, but he has now gone to the auction house. Arthur says he actually came to see Vincent and asks if he may come in. Vincent lets Arthur in. Tabitha, Alice, Lilia, and little Eleanor are at the market for shopping. Alice asks if all of the stuff that they are shopping for is even appropriate for the 10-year anniversary event. Tabitha assures Alice that many people adored the centerpieces Alice made. Alice asks where they saw them, and Tabitha tells her that she stole some of them from the house and used them to decorate the private viewing room at the auction house. They laugh. Lilia notices that Eleanor seems to be out of the moment, and she asks her what is bothering her. Eleanor worries that Arthur did not come with them for shopping. Lilia tells Eleanor that these days she is only thinking about Arthur and forgets about her, Lilia. Eleanor says Lilia is Lilia and Arthur is Arthur. Lilia continues to worry, and this makes Eleanor sad. Tabitha sees this and slaps Lilia's head for giving a hard time to Eleanor. Lilia says she was only teasing Eleanor. Tabitha believes it is not only Eleanor who is thinking about Arthur a lot these days. She teases Lilia that she has a crush on Arthur. Lilia explains how she wants to make her parents proud by being a mage. Tabitha asks Alice if she knows what Arthur did to speed up his process of becoming a mage, and Alice assures her she does not know. A man hidden in a black cloak is spotted following the ladies. After a few steps, he stops and talks to another of his lookalikes with the same dressing. They discuss Arthur and make plans to find an opportunity at the 10-year anniversary event. Arthur and Vincent discuss getting Arthur a cloak and a mask that will alter with Arthur's voice. In return, Arthur promises to help Lilia awaken her mage abilities, as he helps with his little sister. Arthur is worried that even after all this time, he can only use his powers for a few seconds. He remembers Virion and Cynthia in his mind and encourages himself to try again. He tells himself that whether it is in his past or present life, he needs strength to protect the people he loves. He remembers things and swears to avenge them while protecting them. Sylvia speaks to him, and Arthur answers that Sylvia might be right that the ladies are back from running their errands. He takes Sylvia out with him to meet them. Alice confronts Arthur for saying he will make Lilia a mage. She tells him that even if it is a harmless joke, it is too sensitive. Tabitha backs up Alice, saying that if it is a prank, then Arthur has gone a bit too far. Arthur assures them that it is not a joke, and that he proposed a deal to Vincent, and he has accepted. Vincent agrees and tells the ladies to go with them to the living room so that they can see what Arthur wants to show them. Vincent, Tabitha, and Alice sit on the same couch while watching Arthur. Lilia and Eleanor are on his left and right, respectively. Arthur instructs Lilia and Eleanor to breathe in exactly how he tells them to. Arthur hopes that Lilia and Eleanor won't find his instructions to be hard to follow because, after all, mana is best sensed during slow and deep breaths in precise rhythmic patterns. Arthur tells the two to breathe in a special way. He tells them this is not just breathing. Arthur tells Eleanor that she will become strong if she follows exactly what he says. Arthur instructs them to breathe through their noses until they cannot breathe anymore. Then they should open their mouths and breathe in just once more. Arthur tells them to concentrate, and they all see white specks. Arthur tells them to gather them. Arthur is drained and tells them that they will continue the next day. Tabitha hugs Arthur and thanks him because, finally, Lilia will have the opportunities that her family failed to have when they couldn't be mages. Arthur is nervous to meet the twin horns. Alice asks Ray if he is excited to meet with the twin horns after such a long time without seeing them. Ray says he thinks he is not the only one who is so excited to see them. Arthur talks to Sylvia and tells her that she is no longer small enough to climb on his shoulder. Someone knocks on the door and Arthur rushes to open it, only to find himself in the arms of Angela. Angela breaks down in tears while hugging Arthur and saying that Arthur has gone through so much for his age. Arthur cries out that he can't breathe. Arthur sees Durden and compliments him on how big he has gotten. Durden says the same thing to Arthur. Adam teases Angela and Durden for crying in front of Arthur when they plan to show up with happy faces. Helen hits Adam from behind and tells Arthur to ignore him because he's a fool. Jasmine comes rushing up and hugs Arthur in tears while apologizing. Ray and Alice also burst into tears, saying they missed their timing. Vincent asks Ray if he does not need conjurers inside. Ray assures Vincent that they have Angela and another wind conjurer, so they shouldn't worry. He also says that the more than that, people might suspect they are about to start a war. Vincent is happy to have Ray's old party as security. Ray is confident that with that team, they will be able to eliminate any threat that comes before the threat reaches the people at the auction house. Vincent prays it doesn't reach that point. Vincent and Ray make their way downstairs and find the whole family prepared and waiting for them. Tabitha teases them that 2 grown men have shown up later than anyone else. Vincent compliments everyone, saying they all look beautiful. He apologizes to the Lewin family for making them wear matching dress codes, and Alice says it's okay. Arthur speaks to himself, saying that he knows that whatever he wears, he's just a cute kid, and hopes his growth spurt comes soon. Vincent tells everyone to head for the carriages while thanking Arthur for the progress he has made with Lilia becoming a mage.